political analysts, Wendy, Patrick, Laura Fink, they join us. They're back here with more. Oh, this gets more exciting day by day.
Cancel the election and make me the winner.
Yes, that's what he says.
Well, it would save us a lot of time.
I know, right? All right, ladies. Michelle Obama, First Lady, very high approval rating. A good idea for them to campaign together, Clinton and Obama.
Well, you know, I call this the First Lady tag team. They are both, they're very good together. They have very good chemistry together. I know there have been statements made in the past by Michelle Obama, but her husband was running against Mrs. Clinton. So obviously we've got to put those statements into context. And I got to say, Shirley and Raul, if we canceled the election and declared a winner, right now it would be Hillary Clinton because she is still ahead in the polls. If you believe the polls are representative of the voting public. So that's a whole nother story.
We've talked about the polls time and time again on this show. And Laura, you can weigh in here. It depends on what poll you're looking at, what poll Trump's looking at, what poll Hillary's looking at.
Well, first of all, I can't let go of the dream team. I don't know what the plural of FLOTUS is, but the reason that team works so well is FLOTI. But the reason it works so well is because, as Michelle Obama said, Hillary Clinton means business. And as Hillary Clinton said, Michelle Obama is inspiring. In fact, she's so inspiring. If you're not inspired by her, it's kind of like not liking Beyonce. It just doesn't happen. So that's a real kick in the campaign for Hillary as she moves toward Election Day to try to keep that enthusiasm up and turn up the volume a little bit with all of this other stuff going on. Now, the polls show that it is working. She and her surrogates pounding the campaign trail is working. She's up in a number of states, and we know that path is narrow for Donald Trump, and it looks like it's getting a little bit narrower and not wider. So it's still close. Anything can happen. But I actually think Donald Trump, in calling for the election, saying it's rigged, saying it should be held today, focusing on errant examples of issues, does a couple of things. One, those are all the states that he's pointed to this in have Republican elected officials in charge, the Secretary of State that are running the elections. So that's a little questionable. The other thing is it depresses turnout. When you tell your supporters, and everyone really, that the election is rigged, why should they go vote? So I think he's shooting himself in the foot a little bit here, and he should change the conversation.
Okay, well, Raul and Shirley, one of the things that is really coming out now is that the system seems to be rigged against rigging. That has gotten a lot of press in that there are so many measures designed to make sure that elections are not fixed, either at the ballot box, online, or what have you. And so that is something that's gotten a lot of press, justifiably so voters on both sides don't go home. And one more thing about Beyonce, you know, pop stars tend to support Hillary Clinton. Remember who she had out on the trail the other day? Katy Perry and Miley Cyrus. So I wonder if there are any conservative young rock stars. I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I like that. It's rigged against rigging. Was that the quote? I like that. That's a hashtag right there that we need to use. Okay, let's talk about, again, we mentioned this in the introduction here where Trump said, let's cancel the election and declare me the winner. Has Trump had a good last couple of weeks since that last debate, in your opinion, or not?
I think he's had a good last week, and that's compared to the previous two.
Sure. It's all
Remember,
relative.
we had the bomb drop on Friday a couple weeks ago, the Access Hollywood tape. It was downhill from there and has only recently, I would say even within the last week, begun an uphill. Now, how do you explain that? One of the ways I think you explain it is he has been on a leash. He has been restrained. He has been teleprompter Trump. He has stayed on message. He has really done everything he could, barring a couple minor gaffes here and there that have caught some headlines. He has really stayed on message and not continued to defend himself. Instead, he's gone on the offense.
Because of who?
It also doesn't help the WikiLeaks dumps have come out the last couple of days.
Who's telling him to do that?
Well, his team, but for the last week, it appears that he has been listening more than he has in the past.
I don't know about that. I think that going around and calling an election rigged and saying you should just elect me, no matter what, I think it remains a hot mess. But I also think that Wendy's right in that I don't think you could get any worse than the week before and after the debate was disastrous. But in terms of narrowing the margin, and yes, the constant stream of WikiLeaks emails for the press and for the country to digest is deleterious for Hillary Clinton's campaign. The problem is Donald Trump is not effectively channeling any of that or his own message, and he needs to be narrowing the gap faster with 11 days to go. So he's still in trouble. We're not seeing course corrections, and so that's trouble for him.
But I think he gets the most improved candidate award over the past 7 days.
Well, there you go. There's that.
I love how positive Wendy is. She's like my light and sunshine.
Why not? Okay, so here's a question. Rubio's back talking about things making news. He says And you got to read through all of this political talk with Marco Rubio. He says he still supports Trump, but he wouldn't comment on whether or not Trump would keep the country safe. And
That's
then
right.
other stuff, other issues that he may or may not comment on whether or not he agrees with him. Is the GOP a mess at this point? And what happens here? We're just assuming here. Let's assume Hillary wins. What happens to the GOP after? Do they have to regroup at that point?
Well, I think not only do they have to regroup, but they really need to rebond. You know, the Trump campaign has really torn apart some very good alliances that have been formed. Now, on the other hand, you know, the Republicans stand for the same principles. I'm sure they can get back together. You know, I am positive. I think they can reunite and regroup, as you say. But one of the things you saw with Rubio is the same dynamic you've seen with other Republican candidates. You can't really call them surrogates because they're not out there stumping for Trump, but they are going to vote for him, although they say somehow that's not an endorsement. Rubio is put in a very untenable position of saying he's going to vote for Trump, but perhaps doesn't have the kind of confidence in Trump as commander-in-chief that the voters would like to see.
It's the Gordian knot of every down ticket Republican in this election cycle. They really are hurt if they do and hurt if they don't, because they're alienating a large swath of people in supporting Trump or in denying him. And it also represents, to your point, Raul, the fundamental problem that the Republicans are going to have right now: the obstructionism, the failure to sort of get anything done in Congress. If the Democrats win the Senate and they are still left holding the House, the problem is that when Republicans do end up making a deal, do end up making bipartisan compromises, they get primaried in their next election. So the right wing comes and they eat their own in the next election. So that's the problem that they face. So they really do have to sit down and foment a unified strategy to recoup. And they also have to reassess their values, because right now they don't have a platform that everyone agrees on. You know, we've seen this election has helped unify Democrats in many ways and was advantageous to Democrats, and has shown the real family discord in the Republican Party. It's going to take one heck of a family reunion to try to get this back together.
I think voters are very smart. They realize some of the congressional races, they can spot the hesitation on these candidates, that they're not all in with their presidential candidate, and that hurts them.
Absolutely. I mean, we see it in our own San Diego County with Darrell Issa and Doug Applegate. We have Darrell Issa putting out a mailer with he and President Obama. Meanwhile, President Obama, you know, pointing out that he's been vilifying him as the head of government reform for an age, and Doug Applegate taking advantage of that quandary on his part. So we're seeing it all over the country.
Well, I also think it humanizes the candidates. They are really honest and authentic about wanting to vote the Republican ticket, but seeing the election as bigger than Donald Trump. They're voting for policy over personality. They know that Trump will only, if that's who they're voting for, is only going to be there for 8 years max, whereas conservative Supreme Court justices will be there for life once they're appointed. So that is how some of these candidates rationalize their decision to vote for Trump, but not be all in for Trump, as we say, for him as a person.
Laura, Wendy, thank you for being here. I can't wait till that clock, what's over there, gets down.
11
to
days.
0.
11 days.
Yes.
11 days.
43 minutes.
So exciting.
And 5 seconds.
15 seconds.
Oh, it sounds so sporty.
Guys, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Halloween, by the way.
That's right.
Right back at you.
There you go.